Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. Of course, I am Brandon.
And I'm Mom. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, we always love, being able to discuss television with you, and especially first episodes. But Mom, we're doing things a little bit different with this series.
Yep, we sure are, Brandon. We let the audience know what we're doing.
Yeah, so in addition to our normal sitcoms and the first episode of them, we are also tackling some superhero shows, you know, and so I'm very excited to start off with.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, I'm very excited for us to be speaking about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so, as a little bit of background, before we get into the discussion, I have seen the series all the way through. I binge watched the first 5 seasons in 2018 and watched as it came on from there. But, Mom, what do you know about the series?
Actually, Brandon, I don't know much. Or I should say, before I watched the first episode, I didn't know much. The only thing I know you and your brother watched the series. I really just kind of looked in every once in a while, but I did not pay attention to any of the storylines. I just know it came from Marvel and that Coulson was in it. And that was all that I knew.
Yeah, and so, yeah, in terms of my brother, he started watching alongside me towards the end of season 4. But nevertheless, I'm very excited, to dive into this, discussion. So, Mom, overall, like, what did you pick up from the first episode? Like, what was like, how do you perceive the plot and everything?
All right. Do you want all my notes, Brandon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's
And before you do that, I will note too that there may be some minor spoilers for some future Marvel Cinematic Universe projects, so you have been warned. But Mom, you can go right into your notes.
All right. From what I can gather overall, this is a series about a group of people who are coming together in order to hate, and I hate to say save the world because that is not the real word it should be used, but is in order to help people in our world. And so, one of the things that stood out to me was, and I'm going to use this as a quote, is that one of the main characters said, "There's a line between world and the weirder world." And they said that Shield's job was to protect people from news that are not ready to hear, that they're not ready to hear. And when they can't do that, they want to keep them safe. So Shield was all about safety and helping the people. And so in this first particular episode, the main focus is really about a man named Agent Ward, and he is one of the first people, or at least it seems to be one of the first people that Coulson is bringing into his group. Um, and so then we learn about some other people who kind of come into the group, and then the main focus is also about a young man who actually has been given some sort of serum, to say the better least, and he is actually doing some good things. However, at the same time, this serum is very dangerous for his body, and so he's also becoming a danger to society at the same time. And so they try to save this, and they did save this particular gentleman. That's about the first, in a nutshell, the first episode.
Well, Mom, overall, like, first of all, like, did you like the episode? What were your thoughts about the overall, episode?
Yeah, actually, Brandon, I was so surprised. I did like the episode. The 45 minutes seemed to go by really quickly. I was really surprised by that, and I did have to watch it twice. However, I understood it the first time I watched it. I just had to pick up some of the nitty gritty when I watched it the second time. But yeah, I thought it was easy to watch. And yes, I can continue watching the series. Um, like I said, I'm just really surprised that I really liked it.
Yeah, and I will touch on some of that a little bit, but I did want to ask you about some of the characters. So, of course, you said one of the things that you did know going in, is that Agent Coulson is here, and so overall, like, what were your thoughts of Coulson going into the series, and has anything changed within this first episode for you?
Well, Coulson, I remember Coulson from Marvel, and I will say that I always liked Coulson. And so for me, it was nice to see him come back and to continue the same character that he started. And they gave a little explanation of why he was still there because, as people know, he died in one of the Marvel movies. However, they said his death was faked by Nick Fury, according to this particular episode. And he is a level 7 agent. And apparently the Avengers are not. Which is why he's still around. But anyway, yes, I was happy to see that Coulson's back, and I really like watching him.
Yeah, I know that you're definitely a fan of his actor Clark Gregg. So it definitely is nice to see him in a I mean in a different, an expanded version of his Marvel role, and so I'm definitely glad about that. But what are your thoughts about some of the other agents that we meet within this episode?
All right, and I'll just speak briefly about them. Agent Ward, of course, is there, and he's the main character who was brought in. They probably focus more on his character per se as a person than the rest of them. I did like Agent Ward. He had a very nice sense of humor, and that's what I really love about some of the Marvel is that they do keep some of it lighthearted. And as he was trying to make him look as he was presenting himself as someone who could act alone, and he says that he will do what is needed to do. He didn't like the idea of having to work with other people, and that's something that Coulson wants him to work with other people, and so I thought they did a really nice job of exploring his character and actually showing that he is very capable as a person. However, at the same time, he does keep mentioning that he prefers to work alone. But Agent Ward is one of the first people that I noticed. Let's see. Maria Hill is one of the ladies who was introduced very early, and she just seemed to me, out of all the characters, seemed like just a normal person. I don't know what her special features are or anything like that, but and they really didn't delve that much into her life. It was just more so she was just kind of there. Let's see. We have two people called Fitz and Simmons, and they seem to be like the detectives of the group, like the nitty gritty. Let me go in and let me see what's really, really happening with this. Let me test this. And so those are the two people who seem to be, those are their type of characters. Let's see. We also have someone named Melinda, or May is what she's called. And she ended up being a pilot, and I didn't quite, you picked up more on her than I did, but I just remember that she was a pilot. And then we have a character named Sky. And Sky is, at this point in time, not part of the group. She is there initially with the first gentleman that I mentioned before, who was kind of working as he was kind of doing some superhero y, but yet not at the same time things. She was kind of watching him, and Sky was part of a group called Rising Tide, which means she was a hacker, and so they explored her character in the sense of the hacker, but at the same time she was trying to do a little bit of good at the same time. So she's brought on as a hacker, which I'm assuming later on she'll be brought in as a group. But in this particular episode, she is not. She's just there as one of the side characters.
Well, overall, like, are there any characters that you really enjoy? Anything that you want to sort of learn more about for these characters?
I think I would like to learn more about Sky because they made a point in saying that they couldn't figure her out. And that's when Colson said that she was going to be an asset to them, because her background was missing. They don't know about her, and they've got to figure out what she can and can't do. So I think knowing about Sky will be something that'll be very beneficial. I know that the gentleman who was brought in, the Mike Peterson, the guy who's the good slash bad slash we're not quite sure what he is. I'm sure he will be brought back later because they spent so much time kind of developing him. Um, and so it'll be interesting to see what his backstory is. And then also, believe it or not, I think Agent Ward is just going to be I think they're just going to talk about him. And I could be very wrong, but I think his background's just going to come on out. But it'll be interesting to see what Fitz and Simmons' background is a little later.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I know when I first watched it, the first thing I needed to do after watching the first episode was. It's like, is there a debrief of all of these characters just so I can get to learn a little bit about them more. But I would say that this show is very good with character development, and so
Hmm.
like throughout the series, especially in season one, I would say that it's very character heavy.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And you mentioned that to me before, and you could tell that they're doing it slowly so that the audience can kind of learn about them along the way.
Yeah, and I know that when we were watching, that you were also keeping a list of some questions that you were curious about. And so, like, what were some of the questions or thoughts that you had going into the episode?
Okay. Some of the questions I have is really, like I said, Sky. She and herself is a question that I have. You know, like she's created this group. Why? What is she doing? Let's see. Tahiti is mentioned several times for them. In particular, they talk about Tahiti and Colson, and they make a comment. They meaning a couple of the characters just make a comment that Colson does not remember Tahiti. So the question is, what about Tahiti? There is a doctor who is brought in here, and I don't know, this could be the only episode she's on, but there's a doctor who's brought in here, and the question is, okay, what is she really doing? Is what she doing just for this episode, or is her storyline brought up a little later? As I mentioned before, Agent Ward's, they mention his family, but they don't talk about it. So the question is, and he likes to work alone. So what about that? And then Colson's death was faked. Why was his death faked? Why couldn't you just go on and be to do open this new group? So I guess they're just quite a few things. And then there I have wrote down here there's a strange man who says something like, "Where is she?" And so I don't know what that has to do. And I didn't say who the strange man was. That's just in my notes. So anyway, so yes, I did have a lot of questions.
Well, yeah. Well, I definitely will say, like I said, without spoiling anything, that that those are definitely addressed, like I said, within the series, and there are certain things within the series, not just this episode, that are spread across the whole series, which I like. The show ran for 136 episodes, and so yeah, it definitely had a lot of room there, a whole 7 seasons, and so yeah, and I know that we've watched some of the Disney Plus Marvel shows together, such as One Division and The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and there were some others like Miss Marvel in the first season of Loki. But Agents of Shield was the first ever Marvel series set within this Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, that sounds great, Brandon. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Out of all the things that I said, which storyline will shock me the most, without saying what happened?
Okay. So what I'm going to say the second one. I'm going to say the second most shocking one because I don't want to spoil the first one, but
Okay.
I would have to say Sky. I would say Sky. Learning more
Okay.
about her.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. So maybe I'll tune into episode 2 through whatever to see what happens to Sky.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and while we're discussing that, I will say. So, what are you looking? Like if you do tune in to episode two and potentially, beyond. Like, what would you want to see out of the show? And since you mentioned that you weren't expecting to, I mean, to like the series. So, did the show's pilot episode match up to how you thought it was going to be going in?
Um, No, I will say it was not. I really didn't know what I was going to expect. I just didn't think I'd care for it, and so I was just really surprised that it very quickly into the episode I was able to become engaged and to like the characters and to enjoy the storyline. So it'll be interesting to see where, like I say, where it goes. So I was really surprised that I really did like it initially.
And do you have any predictions for how the series will continue forward after this pilot?
Actually, Brandon, I'm going to say no, because the Marvel universe is always ever changing, and so no, I don't. I'm not even going to predict how it's going to go. I'm not going to predict. All I'll say is that I'm pretty sure that the Mike Peterson guy will come back. I just don't know what in format, but I'm pretty sure he will come back. Um, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep his son in there. But I mean, that was the only thing that I would kind of say that will come back. So I'd really like to just, with fresh eyes, just kind of see it grow. So who knows? I might show back up, Brandon, for another one of these to talk a little bit about Agents of Shield.
Yeah, well, I definitely would look forward to that, and I hope viewers, if you want mom to continue watching, let us know in the comments, and just for a little bit of me reflecting on when I was first viewing it, watching the first 5 seasons in summer 2018. I would say that it was such a fun, such a fun viewing, and so I know early on I had no expectations, similar to what you were saying, but I had a friend that said I just finished the season 5 finale. It's a good show, and so I said just started watching, and so it's so interesting to see how it evolves. And for me, watching, having seen the whole series, it's so interesting how it started off, and I think it developed really well over the course of the like I said, the 7 seasons, and so I definitely would be excited to see, like I said, what your thoughts are. If we continue watching, or for me rewatching the series.
Yeah, I can't wait to do so, Brandon.
Yeah, well, like I said, Mom, this was just such a fun, discussion, and yeah, and of course, as a little connection, of course, this is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and so we previously discussed the movie The Marvels, which we've recently seen, and so as a little bit of background, we've pretty much explored most of the MCU together.
Yeah, we sure did. We did explore together. You introduced them to me um, many years ago.
So yeah, so that is definitely fun. Well, Mom, until next time, I hope that let's hope that we continue tuning in and watching.
Yep, same here, Brandon. Thank you guys for
I
watching.
will see you next time.
All right, bye bye.